So much of the Christian life is choosing faith over fear. How does fear manifest itself in the lives of Christian men today? Because all of what you just said is fine and dandy, but I could say to you, and this gentleman is saying, I'm paralyzed in fear. I'm in debt. I have more kids than I can take care of. I don't know how to talk to my wife. I'm paralyzed by fear. What do I do as a Christian man to bust through the fear? And how can Promise Keepers help me?
Would you ask me an easier question? I don't want to answer that.
It's pretty intense, and I know a lot of us have gone through it.
Let me start off harshly and then pull back, which I do sometimes, and I think this is helpful. Revelation 21, verse 8, has a list of the people who will be in the lake of fire. That list starts with cowards, and it ends with liars. Now, if I was going to tell you there's a list of 8 categories that define your life that would say, God is saying, if you are one of these people, you cannot be saved. It's cowards, liars, idolaters, sexually perverse, murderers. I forget the whole list, and all liars. You wouldn't think cowards would be the one on there. And what is cowardice? I mean, really, what is cowardice? If I say you're a murderer, well, we all know what a murderer is, right? But what is cowardice? Well, cowardice is simply not doing what you should do because of fear. Bravery is the opposite. When we say someone's courageous, what does that mean? Well, it's somebody who always does what needs to be done despite his fear, right? So conquering your fear is incredibly important because we don't want to be cowards. So lots of people have fear, but some people are able to bust through that and some not. So how do we conquer fear? There's only one way, which is faith. Faith is the antidote to fear. And how do we build our faith? Well, luckily for us, the disciples asked Jesus that question and he gave them an answer. In Luke, I think it's chapter 15, they say, Jesus, help us build our faith. And then Jesus explains what faith is. Jesus says the famous quote, if you have faith, you could say just the grain of a mustard seed, you say to this mountain, get up and move into the sea, and it will move into the sea. Now, I'd love to have faith like that because I'd like to move Vail closer to my house. But that doesn't seem to be working. I keep ordering Vail to come closer to my house and it doesn't work. So I don't apparently have enough faith. But how do you have faith? Jesus says, gives a parable. How many of you, if you have a slave who's been working all day in the field and when he comes in, says to him after he's prepared your meal, sit down and eat? No, you'll say to that slave, serve me. And when I've finished eating, then you can eat. So it is with the kingdom of heaven. When you've done everything you were supposed to do, you should say, we're only worthless slaves. We've just done our duty. So that's Jesus' answer to how you have more faith, which is what? Working really, really hard. And when you work really hard, you don't work for a reward. You work because you love your master, which is the Father in heaven. And when people go, aren't you amazing? You did this, you did that. You just put on this big event. Aren't you great? You say, I'm just about my Father's business and I'll get to rest when I get to heaven. And when you push through working hard, it builds your faith. When you build your faith, you'll find fear completely disappears. And people say to me all the time, geez, you don't seem to be afraid of anything. Like you just seem like you just are so bold. Well, it's because I have my eyes on Jesus, only Jesus.
So follow-up question, how do you be bold and fearless without coming off as cocky or arrogant?
That's tough. I'll tell you, man. I know these guys. I mean, General Boykin, Chad Hennings, two of my best friends in the whole world. General Boykin, most people know who he is, but he's the one who chased down and caught Pablo Escobar. He's the one who took Manuel Noriega into custody. He was the commanding officer at Black Hawk Down. Walks around smoking cigars. One of the most humble men I've ever known. Incredibly humble. One of the baddest dudes on the planet. I mean, he is a walking American hero, and he's both. He is fearless. On the outside, he always does what needs to be done. Chad Hennings, same way, guy, unbelievable, 3 Super Bowl rings, but yet incredibly humble. So you can be both. But the question is, why are you fearless? If you're fearless because you're trusting in your own effort, in your own body, in your own training, then you will be arrogant and you will fail. But if you're fearless because you have faith in Christ, which I can say of Chad and General Boykin, that's the case, then you are both humble and fearless because you've got your eyes on the source of life And the only reward you're trying to get is Jesus saying, well done. You're not worried about what the world says. And that's such a key right there. So when we worry about other people's opinions, it's a never ending road. You'll never, ever be okay. If people can see the hate letters I get, the mail from both Christians and non-Christians, they would be horrified. You got to work through it.
Is humility something you can pray for?
Yes. Be very careful what you ask for. I have a chapter, the last chapter of Rise of the Servant Kings is where I prayed for humility. And God said, okay, son, he didn't give it to me as a gift. What he says, I'm going to teach it to you. And I'm going to teach it to you in a way that you'll never forget. So I prayed for humility, and literally with a week later, I won't go into the story, buy the book or get the audio book, but my life was turned upside down in such a horrific way, where I was taught that all of the gifts I'd had, all the success I had came from the Lord and not from me. And then the Lord came through and saved me. And I tell you what, that was a breaking I never want to go through again, but I'm so glad for it. So I prayed for humility and he gave it to me, but be careful what you ask for.